Hey everyone, thanks for coming to today's digital training as part of the AFL-CIO's 1U digital series. Today we are going to be talking about email best practices. For those of you that, many of you probably use it regularly, some of you may not. 1U, which is the hashtag that we're using on Twitter for anything union related. Today in particular for this training and for other trainings, we're using hashtag 1U digital. And that's just a way that we can all sort of stay together on Twitter and follow the conversation that's going around about the labor movement. My name is Stergalas. I'm going to be leading this training today. I'm the online organizer here at Working America, which is the community affiliate of the AFL-CIO. You can feel free to tweet me at any point during this training or at any point down the road at @Stergalas. So to get started, I've got a question for you. Just so we kind of get an idea of what we're working with. How big is your email list? I know we've got all sorts of different people on today's call, but let's just try to get an idea. Is it under 100? Is it a smaller list? Is it under 500? Is it between 501 and 1,000? Is it between 1,000 and 500? Is it over 5,000? Or maybe you just don't know. There's no right or wrong answer here, just trying to get a sense of what sort of lists we're working with today. And for those of you that are on the call, you can use the you should see the poll option right now. You can type in your answer there, and so that we can see what's going on. All right, so it looks like we've got a pretty diverse crowd on the call today. There's a lot of small lists, a lot of big lists. So good. We've got definitely people covering all sort of angles of email. So there's three main objectives today that we're going to be talking about. The first is to keep a healthy email list. The second is to better engage your members, and the third is to maximize your impact online. But before we get there, we've got a big question. Is it worth it? This is something that every organization deals with, both internally and you yourself might be dealing with when you're trying to debate what exactly you're going to be doing online. There's a few components to it. Generally the answer is yes. Emails are worth it. Emailing is worth it. Email is still one of the largest modes of communication used every day, and we should definitely be trying to use it as best as possible to help everything that we're doing. You should be thinking about the timing. The good thing is it doesn't take a whole lot of time to send an email, and you can get it to somebody usually pretty quickly. There's also infinite possibilities, which is great. You have complete flexibility with what you send to your members, what you're going to ask them to do. Do you want, are you going to ask them to take a survey, to contact their congressperson, read a story, watch a video, RSVP? There's so many things that you can do online that other modes it's a lot more difficult to do. Also, maximizing all of your efforts. Anything you're doing, either online or offline, can be maximized by email. You can, if you maybe you're having a big event somewhere, you can send an email to drive people to attend it. Email is definitely one of those tools that can be used to make anything you do better. So what am I doing? There's four big questions you should ask yourself before you send an email at any time. The first one is what? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to get a bill passed? Are you trying to just get people to show up to a meeting? What exactly do you want them to do? The second is, why is this important to them? Why should they respond to this? Why should they do what you're asking them to do? If you're sending something about, maybe it's a really bad right to work law that's going to be happening in a state. Your list cares because maybe they're mostly union members and they can see that the law will hurt them if passed. Being able to make a clear answer as to why the specific situation will affect them will help you get way better response rates and will just help you to keep a healthier email list. Why me? This is a really key one that a lot of organizations don't always think about. After you've established the why as to what the purpose of the email is, you need to be able to answer it to say, why is your organization the answer to this problem? Why should somebody do what you want them to do when on many issues, there's 10, 20, 30 other organizations that are sending out emails about the same topic. So why you? Is it that you have the biggest presence because you are going to be sending somebody to the Capitol to lobby on this horrible bill? Is it that your members know that you are the best at doing what you do? Whatever it is, you need to make it clear and let people know why it should be you that's doing it. And then the fourth question is why now? So this gets back to the timing question of why are you asking? Why does this have to happen in the next hour? Why does this have to happen this week? Why today and not in 2 months? Is it that a bill is being voted on tomorrow? Is it that you have an event happening in a week? Should be very clear to your readers to make it clear to them as to why exactly this has to happen now. The sense of urgency there and is going to help you get better responses. So who are you? The first thing that happens when you send an email to somebody is they see who it's from. And if it's not clear in that from line exactly who this is that's sending them email, a lot of times people won't even open it. So you should do your best to attempt to uh, have a clear name and organizational status in that email if applicable. So, with the AFL, a lot of times an email is coming from President Rich Trumka. So the email is usually signed from Richard Trumka, comma, AFL-CIO. At Working America, we do the same thing. Whichever staff person is signing it, it's usually that person's name, comma, Working America. It brings some personality to the email so people can see that an actual human being's name is on it. But it also helps to bring some organizational affiliation so that, sometimes maybe somebody won't recognize the name that's there, but they'll see that organizational name right next to them, so it'll help them to just sort of gather exactly who it is that's sending this to them. Wow, right? That's what you should be thinking anytime you send an email is, you know, what can you do to get somebody's attention? Because again, an email inbox is so full. How many emails do you get in a day? Hundreds of emails come in and out of your email box every day. Um, and you don't go through every single one. You're not going to read them, and most people don't. So your subject line is how you can get somebody in the door. And having a really long, annoying, sort of convoluted subject line is not going to help you to get somebody in. Having something that's to the point, sums up what exactly you're doing, and relates to your overall message is really going to improve your open rates. And heck, if you can't get people to open the email, you're sure as heck not going to get them to click through and do that secondary ask that you actually have. So just remember to be short and concise all the time, and be truthful too. You know, it don't your subject line shouldn't be free kittens if you're doing nothing about kittens. I mean, sure, it's going to get somebody's attention, but once they open it and realize that you're really asking them to make a phone call, they might be a little ticked off, and it might sort of hurt your brand down the road, where people aren't really trusting you and what you're sending in your emails. So I've got a little question for you guys. What do you think is the best subject line here? We have three of them. Subject line A is Representative Smith and Senator Brown voted today on a bill that would help to give really big tax breaks to billionaires. Subject line B is They did it. Subject line C is May 20th, 2013 Capitol update. So, which of these do you think is best? Again, just put your response in the webinar box, and we'll just give it a few minutes here to see what you guys think. All right, so it's looking like we're getting some mixed responses here, which is good. I think it's good, but let's just maybe break this down a little bit more, and I'll give you the right answer, because there is actually a right answer here. While all of these subject lines are subject lines that people use some version of most days, only really one stands out, and that's subject line B. It's short, it's concise, it makes it makes you want more. You want to know who did what exactly, but it definitely brings you in a little bit, and that's what you should be a goal of almost every subject line is how can you bring somebody in. Subject line A is sure it's a whole sentence. It tells you exactly what's going on, but that's it, right? It tells you what went on. Why else should you open this email? Is there much else you should see? There's too much detail for a subject line by far. Um, if you deliver everything that you have in the subject line, then there is no purpose of sending the full email. And then subject line C, you know, having a date in an email subject line can be helpful in certain instances, but for something like this, it's not. It's boring. It's generic. It doesn't reel anyone in. It just seems like it's going to be a newsletter. It seems like it's just going to be something, you know, very sort of stale. So people aren't really going to be clicking on that nearly as much as they would if something concise like subject line B. So you've got your awesome subject line. Now what? One of the biggest things that I like to think about and tell people, when you're thinking about sending email is your audience is all over the place, right? You've got people reading emails on their iPhones, on their computers at work, to and from work in the mornings, at home in the evenings. Your readers are probably multitasking, doing a million different things. So your email needs to get to the point and tell them exactly what you want them to do. If you're beating around the bush, you're going to lose people. They're going to, while they're running on the treadmill maybe, they're going to skim through, try to get to the point and see what exactly you're asking, and if it's not obvious, they're gone and they're not coming back. So, just remember you have a few moments to connect to your reader in that email, and if you can't do it quickly, then you've lost and your email is not going to be successful. So an email structure. Here's an example of an email that the AFL sent out not too long ago, and it's a good example of sort of how every email should be structured. Not necessarily lengthwise, but each of these components should be in any email you do. You start off where you've got after you've got your sender and your subject line. The first sentence in the email should always be sort of the attention grabber. So someone's there, they'll start reading it at the first sentence. But what else? What are they going to take away from that? So you get your salutation, your greeting. Then you get into your what and why, which comes right after that, which is just a brief summary of what's going on and why they need to act now. Third, you have your ask. In this case, it was to contact your senators about this issue. The third is more why and theory of change. It's, for those of you that don't know, theory of change is the idea of what you can do to fix an issue and why you should be, again, back to that why question of why your organization, why the AFL-CIO should be the ones doing this, and why you as a reader should be helping the AFL-CIO do it. And then finally, you've got your repeat ask, which is just another link basically in most cases to that same ask that you put out at the beginning of the email. You're just going to repeat it, and then your closing, your sign off, which is in solidarity, somebody's name, sincerely, thank you, whatever the case is. In every email you should send, you should be thinking about having a conversation. People don't like being talked at in many cases. They want to feel that they're part of the conversation. They're a part of the dialogue that's happening. They're a part of the discussion. So, no matter the purpose, you want to be having that conversation. You want to connect with them. You want people to feel like they have a reason to be reading this and reason to be acting with you, that they're part of this organization. And similarly with that, images can help and hurt you when you're having that conversation. A lot of people have a lot of different thoughts about images and emails, but generally, kind of the rule of thumb is, use an image if it supports your cause, supports your case. If you're having a rally tomorrow and there's a picture of people at your rally, or people getting ready for the rally, that can be helpful if it's sort of with the text. But just putting a picture for the sake of a picture is not going to hurt you, or is not going to help you to get people to actually do what you want them to do. Um, an example of this a lot is when you're sending an invitation. I've seen so many times where people will just send, a picture of an invitation in an email, or, a PDF in an email, and that's it. There's no conversation. So what do I do when I get that? I just, delete the email or don't do anything, because it's, you know, I don't have Rich Trumka reaching out to me, or I don't have, some staff person actually messaging me and taking the moment to say, "Hey, Chris, I think you'd be interested in this. Can you please help us?" That added extra little bonus works wonders and does so much more to get people motivated to do what you want them to do. Just throwing an image at them or throwing an invitation at them isn't always going to get you there. So here's an example of that. I know earlier this year a lot of us, our organizations, helped out with the letter carriers food drive. This is great. This is a good image. It sums up what's going on. It's got some recognizable faces. Um, but you need more in an email. You can't just send this picture. Sure, yeah, great, cool, like the image, but all right, what do you want me to do? Again, a lot of people are just gonna keep clicking through their inbox. They're not even gonna know exactly what you want. However, if you maybe put this image in an email with a few sentences about, "Hey, this food drive's coming up. We really need your help. Can you leave a bag of food out for your letter carrier to pick up on Saturday?" Then your likelihood of getting them to do it's going to be a lot higher. Here's an example that we did in an email not too long ago, where we're telling a member story about earned sick days and why earned sick days matter to this certain member. And the image we use there in the call out box is an image of our member with her son, which was related to the story. So it just helps paint a picture so people can get a face to sort of the story that's happening, and it just helps to connect to it more. So, about having that conversation, here we have an email that came from a very, very conservative Tea Party candidate in California that ran for state representative last year. Looking at this quickly, I'm pretty sure anybody would just get lost. There's no conversation that's happening. There's lots of bullet points. There's random highlighted text. There's different sizes of text. The formatting's all weird. There's so many things I could go on about, but it's the conversation. The conversational element is probably one of the biggest ones. You don't feel like you're a part of this. You feel like you were being preached at, and maybe that's the goal here. But in most cases, people don't want you to just be yelling and screaming at them, telling them that enough is enough and that he needs your help today, and whatever all these other callouts are. And an email should almost never be 800 words and this ranty and long. There are just so many issues with this that I just need to continue going. So what are you asking? You got the subject line down, you've got your conversation down, but what are you going to actually ask people to do? What's the point of this email? You should always be asking yourself this when you're sending something. Are you asking them to take action and send an email to a legislator? Do you want them to make a phone call? Do you want them to attend an event, read an article, watch a video, donate money, take a survey? What is it? You should always be trying to find something that you're asking people to do. And that's another big point, is you should make a choice of what exactly you're asking people to do. Sure, there's a million things that you can ask them, but you need to be concise. You need to find that one clear thing that you can sum up, and people know from reading your email, I know that they want me to make a call to my congressman. I know that they want me to attend this event next week. If people can't extract that easily, you're going to lose responses, you're going to confuse people, and you're going to hurt your goals at the end of the day. So remember, ask one thing just about every single time. There's exceptions to this, but in most cases, one simple ask is the way to go. But which one? Right? Sure, we're such a busy organization. We want to, there's a million things going on. We want to ask people to do 1,000 things, but how do you decide exactly what is the important one? Here's an example of an email that unfortunately did not behave all that well. As you can see, there's the different blue areas are links to different things that have different asks, and it's not clear exactly what you want somebody to do. Very few people are going to go through and click each of these different links. It's probably not going to happen. You know, but if each of these links were to link to the same exact thing, your likelihood of getting them to do it is so much higher. People aren't going to, if you have 10 different links and they're 10 different stories, what's the most important one? There's no hierarchy. People can't tell exactly what they're supposed to do. You have one shot here, don't waste it. So how do you convey that? The theory of change is needs to be defined, and it's really important where you that people know why you were the people that should be handling this. Um, what does it look like? You want to it's the cold versus conversational thought. You want to have more of a conversation with people than you want to just sort of be cold and textbooky. Um, this is an instance of it. This was a short, quick email, um, but it people can realize exactly what you're doing, why they should help you, because it's clear that um, you know the bill has to be stopped, and we're the people to do it, and that's what you should be thinking about when you send emails. On the other hand, without that one clear ask, you know, here's an email that's talking about some various different things, but it's hard to read first of all. So a lot of people are just going to get lost right here and go away. But on the flip side, people that might actually read it, aren't going to necessarily understand like the theory of change as to why should why this organization, why should you be doing work with them. Um, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they're asking you to do. There's a few things going on here that are just going to confuse people. So, my tip here would be try to find that thing you're asking people to do, define it, make it very clear, and you're going to get a lot better results. So timing. One big takeaway to remember is timing truly is everything in email. On a big issue, if the Supreme Court makes a huge decision, if the Senate has a vote, the first one out, chances are, is going to be the winner. Don't be sloppy about it. Like if maybe you're the first one to send it out, but if it's full of typos and false information, that's at the end of the day going to hurt you. But um, that gets to my point about content is often king. Um, you know, but timing can trump it. And that's sort of say, yeah, of course, if you spend, a week or two, um, you know, coming up with this great story and, this awesome email about an issue, your content's going to be awesome and people are going to love it. But, on the other hand, if you're the first to send out an email on that Supreme Court case or on that 2 a.m. Senate vote, whatever the case is, you get some big brownie points just for doing that. So, there is some leeway between content and timing. Ideally, you can have both each time, but that's not how the real world works all the time. So, strive to have good content, but also strive to be on top of an issue. Don't send out an email, 3 weeks after a vote happened. Try to be within that first 24 hours or as soon thereafter as possible. Uh, Definitely be thinking about when your email is going out and when people are going to be receiving it and how it's related to sort of the story of the email. So an example of this, typically you want to send an email during the day when people are, at work or when people are near a computer, going to be checking their email more often. There are definite exclusions to that. One of them being, well, if you're Barack Obama can basically do whatever he wants. But, this was the election night email. It went out at, I think, like 11:30. It's later than I would usually send an email. Most lists, that's not good to send emails that late. But this is a big deal, right? He just won re-election. So clearly, his audience is wanting that information. They're expecting to hear from him on it first. So, the timing worked where he could send this. It's also, this email is also probably, in a case like this, they probably worked up a couple of drafts of emails ahead of time like this. This was probably written weeks in advance, as well as an email in case he would have lost, different things, just so they were ready to hit send as soon as something happens, no matter what that is. So you're almost there. Ready, set, almost go. One of the biggest things you got to do here is after you've got all that awesome content, that also awesome subject line, you've got your story down, is to proofread and then proofread and then proofread some more. I mean, seriously, just proofread. You've got to check your spelling, you've got to check your links, you've got to check your facts. I mean, it can be something small. It can be your coding in your email that where all of your sentences are jumbled together, where your image isn't working, where your link you accidentally copy and pasted the wrong link and you're sending people to Facebook instead of to your action page. Um, so many things can go wrong, and they do go wrong. Errors happen. Errors happen to every organization, to every person that writes email, and they're gonna happen from time to time. It's about sort of accepting that and working to change them and do the best that you can to avoid them. One of the best ways to do that is to have somebody else help you to proof, somebody that didn't write the email. If I'm looking at an email that I wrote, I'm skimming it. I know what the content is. I'm not paying attention word for word, and that can hurt your case. So if you send it to another staff person, a friend, a coworker, whatever it is, and ask them to put their eyes on it, you can often get a better response that's a little bit less objective. Clicking. So people like to click on things. In an email, again, people are probably skimming through, not reading every single word. So, it should be clear where you want them to click. If they're not going to read this email, can they click on things? If you have an image in your email, it should be linked to something. If it's not, you probably need to change that because people like to click on images. They also know that links are going to drive them somewhere, so they're probably going to click on them. So making those things as clear and straightforward as possible is absolutely going to help you. All right, then what? So you've got the email, you're ready to send it, you found the time, the content, everything. But then what? You've got to be thinking about what that conversation leads into. If you're asking them to take an action and then they click on your link, where are they going? You need to think of this as like a whole full circle effect that it's all part of the same conversation of beginning to end. The email begins the conversation, and then the landing page continues it. Some good takeaways and things to remember are to make it easy and simple and straightforward. Just like the email, um, you want people to know what they're expected to do right away. The more they have to think about it and click around to figure it out, the less likely they are to actually do it. So the less the process involved, the better your result's going to be. An image, a quick few sentences, and then your the fields that people enter their name and email and whatnot for the action or whatever your ask is should just be straightforward, right in their face immediately, so that they don't have to kind of look around the page for it. Here's two examples of landing pages. On the left, you've got a good one. You've got, it's pretty obvious, Support Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. You've got a few sentences about it. You've got, underneath that, you have the actual ask to that they're sending. And then to the right, you have the form fields that people can enter their information in. And then the send your message button is bright and clear right there. You know what they want you to do. There's nothing hidden there. It's all right straight in your face. This other one on the right-hand side, on the other hand, is a little bit different. If you land on this, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's all kinds of links that link me to other places. The image tells me they need my help, but what exactly do they want me to do? It's not clear to me, and I can't really tell, and most people aren't going to be able to, and they're not going to do anything. So if they had one simple, straightforward ask, they'd get a lot better responses, and they'd help strengthen the issue. Let's take a minute to talk about press releases. Every organization does press releases. Every single one sends them, writes up on issues they're doing, whatever it is. But press releases and emails are not the same thing. If you take nothing else away from this training, I think you should take this away. Press releases and emails are not the same thing. They have a different audience. They have a different format. They are not email friendly to your entire email list. Heck, your entire email list does not want that. Remember what I said about having a conversation? People want to feel engaged in the email, and if you just copy and paste a very clear press release where it's got the basic forms that you would see where it's for immediate release from organization, whatever, people are going to be turned off and not really into that. Some people like press releases, and so you should have that press release, maybe add them to your press release. a list, but it should never go to your entire audience. This is an example of that where not everybody wants to see this. Like, it's not going to help your cause. It's fine to take the information from a press release and make it email friendly by writing a quick little story about it. That'll help you, but just sending this will not. But how much? So how much should you be sending? This is one of those things that there's not a straightforward answer. Every organization is different. Big organizations can get away with sending a lot more regularly. Small lists, small organizations probably should not be sending a whole lot. People get burned out. People don't want to read your email 3 times a day. I think but a general rule that's good in most cases is every other week or at least once a month you should try to send something to your list. Just keep people engaged. They see that you're still out there doing stuff. They're still reading you. If they're not, if there does go a larger gap where they're only hearing from you a couple times a year, you're losing a lot of your brand recognition, your identity, and it's just gonna hurt you, hurt your recognition, where people aren't gonna see you as the face of this issue or the topic that you're talking about. But people love me. I know. We all like to think that, right? Everyone gets a little offended, when people unsubscribe, and that's unfortunate, but unsubscribes are gonna happen. Um, People don't want to receive your emails all the time. Little things can set them off. Maybe it's a bad day and they're getting a whole bunch of emails, so they're unsubscribing to everyone's at once. But they were on your list at some point for a reason. They made the decision to join your list, so somehow, some reason, they like you and they want your information. But no one wants to be spammed. Nobody wants to be sent 5 emails a day. And if you do something like that, you're gonna lose people like crazy. You should be strategic, find your moment and your voice and what you're talking about, and people will get used to that and know what to expect. When people know what to expect from you, they're going to stay on your list. The people that stay on your list are the people that know you and want you. Um, but either way, opt-outs are still going to happen no matter what, um, and it's something you've got to live with. I don't know of any list, no list exists that has never had an opt-out. Opt-outs are always going to be there. They're always gonna plague you when you see more and more on an email. But there's a constant sort of flow of emails where people come in, people come out. It's always happening. It's always changing. But your goal should just always be, to keep growing. Sure, maybe you'll lose 5 people on this email, but what can I do to get 7 people on the email list by the end of the week? There's lots of things you can do, but just don't get too upset about it. It's always going to happen. Everyone deals with it. It's all part of the business. Let's talk about your list. Something you should be thinking about when you're emailing is, where did your list come from? Did it come from, is it activists who signed up at a state fair? Are these people that you all have personal relationships with? Do they know they're on the list? Are they dues paying members of your organization? Did you buy this list from somewhere? Which is something you should never be doing. A lot of people do sometimes buy lists, but it's bad. But so generally you should take care in knowing who is on your list. If it's a big list, you do not personally know every single person on it. It's not going to happen. But you can get a sense and know why they're on it and where they come from, sort of what their makeup is, and that's important. So just remember, in everything that you're doing in the email world, just have a conversation. Just have a conversation with people. Working in the movement that we do, we're always talking about getting stories from people and talking to people, organizing people. In those conversations and those stories is how exactly you do that. And if you lose sight of that, it's going to hurt your program. So get it as close back to it as possible. So 4 big takeaways I have for you today. Number 1, you can send great emails. It's not that hard. Just think about having that conversation. Think about that great subject line. Think about letting people know why you're sending them this email and why they should be paying attention to you. Put yourself in your reader's shoes. Just keep thinking about that if you got an email that looked like this from someone else, what would you do with it? would you do anything? Would you read it? Would you actually click on the links and follow through? If the answer is no, the answer is probably going to be no for a lot of people. Proofread. I think it's pretty straightforward, but have somebody proofread every single email that you send out, no matter what, no matter how short it is. It needs to be proofread, and it's going to help you so much because you're not going to have people, writing in saying, "Hey, you spelled my name wrong. Hey, you did this wrong." It's going to help your overall program, and it will bring you some comfort too to know that you're sending out the best possible product. And then finally, have conversations. No matter what you're doing, no matter how you're doing it, have a conversation, bring people into the loop, let them be a part of the movement that you are trying to create. So that's it. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask me now. Feel free to tweet me again at Stergalas. I'll be happy to help you any way that I can. And remember that there are more trainings that you can find out. The One U digital hashtag can help you with that. And we hope that you can join us again down the road and that you found this useful today. Thanks a lot, everyone.